ancient civilization wiped out by a massive comet 22,000 years ago, claims Graham Hancock. We also have ancient texts saying that we had upheavals and ancient wars, ancient impacts, ancient floods. Graham Hancock argues that an ancient alien culture in Antarctica was obliterated, but subjects such as astronomy and mathematics were passed to later civilizations, he says. Graham Hancock is a popular name on the list of archaeologists and researchers who dared to look at ancient history with a different view. He became the loudest voice in the argument against the accepted chronology and development of human civilization. He presented evidence of how a massive celestial object completely wiped out a human civilization much older than known settlements. Hancock proposes many alternative theories that might not please the mainstream archaeologists. For example, he said that some ancient structures, such as the Great Sphinx, were actually remnants of a much older stage of human civilization that existed before the end of the last ice age. He based his theory on the correlation between cultural and geological events between different sites as distant as Indonesia, Turkey, Egypt, and India. These indicate that a human civilization lived much earlier than it is claimed by scientists. In other words, mankind had developed advanced civilizations long before the emergence of the Mesopotamian and Egyptian civilizations that mainstream archaeology believes were the very beginnings of human civilization. In fact, Hancock proposes that ancient civilizations such as the Egyptians, Mayans, and Mesopotamians had only inherited the knowledge of much more advanced civilizations that predated them by possibly 6,000 years or more, and which was destroyed by another great cataclysm, the same cataclysm that brought the last ice age to a dramatic end around 12,000 BC. He wrote the book Magician of the Gods. In his book Magicians of the Gods, Hancock mentions traveling to the different parts of the world, gathering evidence for a lost ancestor civilization, which he argues disappeared during a cataclysmic upheaval at the end of the last ice age due to a run-in with the broken shards of a massive comet. He suggests that this comet travels with the famous Taurid meteor shower that comes in late June and early July, and again in late October to early November. And now we're going through the Geminid shower from the comet Phaethon. We're going to expect about 100 meteor shooting stars an hour, 100 an hour, now today and tomorrow. So anyway, here he argued that this particular meteor shower is filled with massive remnants of a massive comet that broke up for some unknown reason roughly 20,000 years ago, the shards of which, some as large as 2 kilometers in diameter, collided with the North American and European ice sheets and brought about the apocalyptic Younger Dryas around 12,900 years ago to 11,700 years ago. Sorry, not years ago, but BP, before present, BC, phase of the Ice Age. Mr. Hancock writes, the impacts from comet fragments a mile wide, approaching at more than 60,000 miles an hour, generated huge amounts of heat, which instantly liquidized millions of square kilometers of ice, destabilizing the Earth's crust and causing the global deluge that is remembered in myths all around the world. A second series of impacts, equally devastating, caused further cataclysmic flooding, occurred 11,600 years ago, the exact date that Plato gives for the destruction and submergence of Atlantis. The evidence revealed in this book shows beyond reasonable doubt that an advanced civilization that flourished during the Ice Age was destroyed in the global cataclysms between 12,800 and 11,600 years ago. So that's about the time of the loss of Atlantis. As per Hancock, this sudden re-emergence of cold was due to a comet that impacted the polar caps, triggering colossal tides and covering the atmosphere with dust for more than 1,000 years. The researcher collaborated in different explorations, visiting locations as mysterious as the sacred site of Gunung Padang in Indonesia, and there he found the remains of a columnar basalt that, according to him, belonged to a pyramid dating from the year 22,000 BC or even earlier. And according to him, those who survived, known to ancient cultures as the sages, the magicians, the shining ones, and the mystery teachers of heaven, the cataclysms traveled the world in their ships to keep these ancients traveled the world in their ships to keep the signs of the dying civilization. They settled at Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, Baalbek in Lebanon, Giza in Egypt, ancient Sumer, Mexico, Peru, and Indonesia. I would also say even in the East, China, Japan, Korea. Now, according to experts, Göbekli Tepe, because we know we have pyramids in Japan and in China too. Now, according to experts, Göbekli Tepe in Turkey is more than 9,600 years old and is the greatest evidence of the effects of a devastating scenario. According to Hancock, the area served for the survivors of the cataclysm to present at least some knowledge of the civilization that was annihilated with the intention of transmitting it to new generations. The researchers say that it is no coincidence that the first traces of the re-emergence of civilization in the form of the oldest known megalithic architecture, in addition to agricultural knowledge, occurred in Göbekli Tepe 11,000 years ago. This date coincides perfectly with the Younger Dryas, that's with the sinking of Atlantis, and the return of a more pleasant global environment. In his book Magicians of the Gods, he also presents evidence that fragments of the comet reached ancient Egypt as well, and there an ancient cult in Heliopolis, the city of the sun, developed a way to preserve historical knowledge for the benefit of new generations in the form of astronomical schematics and monumental architecture. Now, will this comet come again? In 2015, Hancock claimed in his article published in the Daily Mail that an Earth-destroying comet was headed to Earth in 20 years. So that's in basically 12 years from now, 13 years from now. He wrote, "These magicians left a message for us, not a metaphorical spiritual message, but a direct and urgent warning. What happened before can happen again, and what destroyed their world can destroy ours." They left that message in the megaliths of Göbekli Tepe. He warned that the impact of the comet will be 1,000 times worse than the detonation of every nuclear weapon on the planet, a collision with the remnants of the comet big enough to end all life as we know it, he said. So this was originally published on House and Wise. Support my by Vicky Verma, and it's on Collective Spark.
The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.